2, 3, 4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine. 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a light to follow. And if you do, you have a future real bright. And it's a combination of consistency. Come on and sing, oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing.
Thank you. We've been talking about this beautiful life for several weeks, and I want us to kind of just do just a brief overview, and we can't take a lot of time because we have to keep moving. But what I have tried to do, and what I've tried to do is to chronicle what I have observed over the last 20 some odd years of working with people, and tried to kind of put into a process what it means to grow and change. And you have to understand that this is not like a process that you go through one time, right? This happens, and this happens, and this happens, and then fine. Oh, good, done, I'm done. No, it goes on. It goes on over and over and over and over again. And this process that we're talking about is a process that if you engage in, you will continue to grow and change. And the moment that we disengage, and quite frankly, there are times when I disengage. Anybody else? Hi, I'm Joe. I disengage. And what I do is I just say, okay, enough. And I kind of step out of it. And then what happens is slowly, usually, I hear kind of the voice of God in a mystical way, like in my own mind saying, this isn't what you want, is it? No, it's not what I want, God. I really want to grow and change. And okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to get back on. And that's the great thing about it, is God won't keep going without you, see? You have a process. It's yours. And if you want to stop it at any time, you can stop it. Now, I don't recommend it, frankly, but sometimes we do it. And so God waits for you right where you got off the bus. And then when you get back on the bus, he says, glad you're back. Now, let's continue on the journey. And so we've kind of identified some of the spots along this journey. So the first one, and usually the thing that starts this for people, is an experience that uncovers our inadequacies, usually pain. Usually something hard happens and we go, what is going on? Now, if we actually ask that question and want an answer, we move to the second piece, a realization that what I believe to be true about life may not be true. And, we'll talk about some of the lies that we believe again in just a few minutes, but what you may believe to be true about life may not be adequate to help you navigate. And so you have a choice, right? Okay, will I change what I think is true? Or will I ride that belief right into the side of this mountain? The third step that I have seen is that there's a quest then to discover new ways to process. If what I believe to be true doesn't really seem to be true, then there must be some new way of looking at life that could be true. Let me ask you this question. And this is really, it's not just a male question, it's male and female question, but I get men more than I get males more than I get females, and so I'm going to ask this question because I know that men, some of us have had this thought. How many of you, now I want you to be honest, and I'm going to have you raise your hand. So everybody look around, get yourself in a position. How many of you men, when you were young, not only wanted to, but thought you could be a professional athlete? Raise your hand. See, it's not that bad. Okay, I get it. Now, so keep them up. Wait a minute, keep them up. I still think I have a shot, by the way. Now, how many of you are actually became a professional athlete? All right. Johnny, okay, good. Makes his living at it. So, now, at some point, you had to go through this process where you went, you know what? I don't think I'm going to make it. Now, that may have been hard. It may not have been hard. It may have been conscious. It may have been unconscious. But that's what I mean about uncovering new ways to process reality. This morning, this is where we are. One of the ways that we do this, and I think kind of the primary activity in this place, is that we begin resizing our ideas of God, our ideas of ourself, and our ideas of life in general. Who is God? What is God? Who am I? What am I? What's going on around me? What really is this thing? Now, by the way, let me just say this before I forget. If you are a movie-going type, you need to get down to the, what's the name of that theater? The San Rafael, the Art House Goon Theater on 4th Street. That's what we call it. And see the Last Days in the Desert. Wow. It's remarkable. Ewan McGregor, one of my favorite people, plays one of my other favorite people, Jesus, and depicts kind of a conflicted, real version of Jesus and what he may have been thinking and doing in some of this time that he spent in these 40 days in the desert. And it's a very thoughtful, kind of thought-provoking film, a great way to have a discussion with someone. And so I really enjoyed it. And I don't recommend movies often, but this one is one that you should see. Now, I want to just mention this. You are not just going to go through this process one time. It's not like you go, okay, here we go, now I'm finished. You start here and you just go through. No, what's going to happen is this. You're going to happen again and again and again and again and again. And in fact, what this looks like is, if you looked at it from the side, is like a downward spiral. Now, what we think about life is that it should be an upward spiral, right? That's what we were taught. Do more, be more, have more, work harder, you'll get everything you need. It's kind of this race to become kind of the one that everyone looks up to, but that's not the life that we're talking about. In fact, that's one of the belief systems that causes us so much pain when it doesn't happen. What Jesus came to show us, and primarily through the crucifixion, is it's a downward way. And you may do exactly what you're supposed to do and be exactly who you're supposed to be, and you may be crucified. Let me start today by saying this. We've been tricked. I thought about this. Anybody grow up with this guy? Poor guy, huh? Talk about a frustrated... Yeah. We have been tricked, ambushed, hoodwinked, shanghaied, duped into thinking that life is something that it may not be. And the work that we are involved in is allowing life to kind of help us understand what it actually is. Let's talk about some lies that we know and have heard and may believe. How about this one? Have you found that to be true? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how badly you may want something. You may not be able to get it. You may not be able to accomplish it. It's just the way it works. Some of what we wanted, fellas, is involved in DNA that we don't have, right? Like, I don't understand the difference between me and Michael Caldwell, but he can hit the golf ball and I can't. I just think it's a DNA issue and it's just not fair. We think that if we just try hard enough, And so when we try our hardest, and we know we've tried our hardest, and we still don't get there, we are just so disappointed. And we say things like this: it wasn't supposed to be this way. These lies are actually quite helpful. I'll tell you why in a second. Here's another one. Love and marriage is a romantic connection that you just simply fall into. And it's just wonderful. It's bliss. Now, that may be true, I don't know, but what is it like to stay in love? Hardest thing you'll ever do. Right? Nobody told me that. In fact, we didn't have those conversations a lot at all when I was growing up, but I just figured, you found someone, you fell in love, and then it just happily ever after. Nothing could be farther from the truth. And those of us who have experienced it know that. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible to stay in love. I love my wife. But, again, hardest job you'll ever have. Now, not because she's difficult to love, but because I'm as selfish as could be. Right? What I really want to do is love myself. So, I don't know what propagates this. But it's not that easy. Just work hard, you can have everything you want. So one person who is successful, and the successfulness is defined by our culture, accumulation, kind of adoration, they've arrived. Another person who works just as hard isn't as successful, or isn't successful at all, or gets laid off, and it's not a matter of working hard. It's interesting, an article just came out where some of the most successful entrepreneurs in our country said this: there is an unknown quantity in my success called luck. I was lucky. What does that mean? Well, the right guy saw my project, or the right person read my book, or the right guy listened to my song, or I just happened to have this idea because I missed the bus, and there was that. It's just that. Now, I'm not saying don't work hard. We need to work hard, and beautiful to work hard. But we have to understand that not all results will be the same, right? Now, these are just some lies that we've been told. Intentions are good. Guy that used to be the creative genius behind Hallmark cards, card company that creates holidays to sell you cards. He wrote a book called Orbiting the Giant Hairball, and I love the book. Read it over and over. You should read it. This is one of his big issues. He goes to schools now. He's kind of semi-retired. He goes to schools and helps kids with the art stuff that he does. And he says when he goes to the schools, the same thing happens in nearly every place. He'll be in front of a group of kindergartners and then a group of first graders and then, all through the day, and have about 45 minutes or an hour with each class. And when he asks the kindergartners, how many of you are artists? What do you think happens? Exactly. I'm an artist. I got my stuff all over the refrigerator at home. Right? It's awesome. And then he gets to the fifth graders and he says, how many of you are artists? And a hand or two goes up. Why? Because it's driven out of us. We've been tricked, duped, hoodwinked, ambushed, shanghaied. And it's time to stop. Say, okay, not going to happen anymore. How about this lie? You should be ashamed of yourself. Whose voice did you just hear? I know. So here's the answer to that. No, I shouldn't, and neither should anybody else. There is nothing that you should make you ashamed of yourself. I hope that that's shocking. Okay, well, what if you did something really bad? Well, Anybody in here done something really bad? Okay, good. Wow, this is a pretty good group of people. Now I feel bad that I raised my hand. Left me hanging there, you guys. Guilt is me saying, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Shame is me saying, that was wrong. I shouldn't be who I am. I shouldn't be me. I'm the kind of person who does that. And I'm not good. I'm not. And you know what it says. You know what shame says. And you wear it, and you own it, and it will kill you. The amazing thing about people who are shamed is that they usually get better or worse? Yeah. Well, I mean, why don't I just live into that, right? If I'm going to be that guy, then I might as well really be that guy. You shouldn't be ashamed of yourself. So, what I want to do this morning is talk about reality. One thing about reality is that it's real like a brick wall is real. Here's my friend again. Remember this episode? He painted the tunnel on the side of the rock so the road runner would run into the tunnel, and it wasn't a tunnel, it was the rock, and he forgot, right? The wonderful thing about reality, see, listen, reality is this most amazing gift. When you run into it like a brick wall and you just smack into it, then you have a choice to make. Because listen to me, this is not going to change. This is what's real. My perception of it as I can change this, I can change this, I can change this. Now, I'm not saying don't do whatever you need to do to change reality. If you want to try that, what you can do, though, is you can change yourself. Now, when you change yourself, and that kind of catches on, reality may begin to waver a little bit, but it's not easy. Now, there's a lot of realities. I just lost my job. Bam. I just got a bad call from the doctor. Bam. Whatever it is, whatever your reality is, you smack into it, and it will hopefully wake you up. It's like, what just happened? I didn't expect this to happen. That's when the beautiful stuff begins to happen. I have to tell you, the most wonderful thing that can happen for you is to just run face first into reality. I never thought this would happen to me. You know how many conversations I have during the week that begins with a line just like that? You know, I never thought I'd be talking to you about this, but reality, listen, reality is real. It's what we have to deal with. Now, if you don't want to deal with reality, what is your other choice? You can create a fantasy. Here's the fantasy that some of us create. Well, that wasn't really my fault. I really couldn't help it. You know, if she was just a little different, our relationship would be so much better. If he would just change these things, if my boss would just, and I get that we can do that. But what that is creating a fantasy world that alleviates my responsibility in the reality. Now, here's what Jesus had to say about this, because it's nothing new. And one of the things that I loved about this movie that I mentioned earlier, The Last Days in the Desert, is what Jesus is doing in the desert is facing reality. There's no more kind of spiritual, fun little spiritual ditties that will do when you're living in the desert for 40 days. Everything is stripped away. And he's left with the fact that he has not heard from God. God, where are you? Anybody ever feel that way? I've been praying and praying and listening, and I thought the deal was I prayed for something and then you gave it to me. Now, it sounds funny when we say it like that, but that's the deal we were brought up with. When Jesus taught us to pray, what did he teach? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day, this is the two requests in this prayer. Give me enough to eat today. Anybody struggling with enough to eat? Okay, good. Well, there you go. Give us enough to eat today. Give us this day our daily bread, and lead us not into temptation. We've kind of grown out of reality into a fantasy. In John chapter 10, he's talking about life to some very interested people, and he says this. It's a comparison. So he says, the thief comes to kill and steal and destroy. Now, in this particular passage, Jesus is not, a lot of people think, well, of course, that's the Satan character. Not in this passage. Read it. It's not. It's not talking about that character. It's talking about someone who is kind of leading us in lies. The thief, the liar, and by the way, you know who the greatest liar is in my life? Yeah. Whoops. I love this thing. I think. That's the greatest liar in my life. Because every day, my ego makes me think I'm either better than I really am or worse. Right? I look at someone and think, oh boy, I'm better than that guy. And then I forget something or I lose something. The other day, something just so simple happened. And I kind of broke something. And I couldn't stop apologizing. It was like gushing out of me. And later, as I thought about it, I think, what's that about? It was an accident. I wouldn't treat, see, this is the funny thing. I wouldn't treat anyone the way that I treat myself, right? My ego is the greatest liar in my life. Jesus said the thief comes to steal and kill and destroy. And that's exactly what it does. And then Jesus said, but I have come, right? John 10:10, that they may have life and have it in abundance. Now, when a guy on television stands up in a suit holding a Bible and tells you that that means that you should have a big house and a Cadillac and a private jet, then just change the channel. Because he's a liar. It's not what Jesus is saying. If that's the abundant life, then why are we even here? We should be at work right now. Right? That's not the abundant life. The abundant life is a life of peacefulness and joy, a depth, relationships that are real. I've come that they could have life and have it to the full. Let me just give you kind of a few fundamental ideas as we move on. By the way, abundant life, let me just kind of, when we think of abundant, we sometimes think, because of who we are, we think of more than we deserve. We think enough is good, but abundant, I don't need abundant. Right? We think that. I think that. I mean, I just want enough. You keep some because I don't want abundant. But the idea in this term that Jesus uses, Zoe, abundant life, is the life that humanity was intended to live. It's your birthright. You know what a birthright is? It's your inheritance. Your old man dies, you get the stuff that he had, for better or for worse. It's your inheritance. You get it. Your inheritance as a human is the abundant life. But we do everything we can do to sidetrack ourselves. And we settle. Here's the fundamental lie that's told. It's in the creation, it's in the Garden of Eden, in this beautiful creation poem. And by the way, the first several chapters of Genesis, if you could read it in the Hebrew, is like an epic poem. It's unbelievable. It's like Beowulf. It's just better. It's beautiful. And in Genesis chapter 3, we have this serpent character coming up to the Eve character. Remember this. And listen to this. Now the serpent was more crafty, subtle, tricky. There's my word. We've been tricked. He's a liar, see? And the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat of any tree of the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from all of the trees, but God did say you must not eat fruit from the tree that's in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it or you will die." And then listen to this. I love this. "You will not surely die. For God knows that when you eat it, you will become like Him." See, God is keeping something from you. You don't have everything you need, Eve. That's the fundamental lie right there. It's the fundamental lie that ruins marriages. It's the fundamental lie that causes at least the beginnings of addictions. It's the fundamental lie that breaks and rips and tears. It's the fundamental lie that destroys. And this unbelievable metaphorical idea. And I want you to see not only, I'm not saying that this didn't happen, I'm saying that it happens every day. What I'm saying is this: if you can just picture yourself as Eve, and over there is something that I need on that tree, and what she does is she reaches for it, and it's in the reaching that we lose everything. And so much so that in Philippians chapter 2, the Apostle Paul, when he's writing, he says this: "Let our attitude be like the attitude of Jesus, who, though he was found in fashion of a man, did not consider equality with God something to be," what? "Grasped." You see it? "But he made himself of no reputation and became a servant." Friends, the way up is down. What? The fundamental lie is simple. You don't have everything you need. And I know some of us right now in our minds we're going, "But I don't have everything I need." Why? Because we believe it's true. It's not. I love this. Rumi is a great poet. Have you read Rumi? You should. Google Rumi. We wander from room to room hunting for the diamond necklace that's already around our neck. You ever do that? Where are my glasses? Right? That's what we do. Why? Because we believe the fundamental lie. We don't have everything we need. And we think if we just get something else or someone else or somewhere else, we'll be happy. See, this is the prodigal son story. Right? Prodigal son said, "Dad, give me my inheritance." Why? He wanted an abundant life. See, it's all the same story. Are you getting this? It's like, that's why I just dig this so much. The more I dig, the more it proves itself to be beauty. So this prodigal son, he says, "Dad, I want my inheritance because quite frankly, this life that we have right here is boring. I don't want to be a farmer. I don't want to live on a farm. I don't want to smell like this anymore. So give me what I have coming to me, my inheritance. Give me my birthright, and I'll go and live the abundant life." And a few months later, where is he? He's living in a pigsty. Always. Now, what's the best thing that happened to that kid? Living in a pigsty. Why? Because the scripture writer says in Luke chapter 15, "And he came," this is just like, maybe this is what I want on my tombstone. "And he came to his senses." And he said, "How many of my father's servants have food to eat and to spare? And here I am trying to fill my stomach with the food that the pigs eat. I will go back to my father." Now here's where the ego comes in. "I will go back to my father and say, 'Father, I am no longer worthy to be called your son.'" See the shame? "Let me live in the servants' quarters and just have enough to eat. gosh. And so he starts home. And when he's on his way, his father sees him a long way off. And what does his father do? Oh, are you kidding me? I knew you would come back. I knew you would sniveling. You wasted. His father does something that no man in the ancient Near East would dare to do. He runs. One of the most degrading activities any man could do. He hikes his robes up around his waist, and he runs to his son, and he falls at his son's feet. And his son says, Father, I am no longer, and he says, quiet. Kill the fatted calf, because my son who was dead is now alive. He was lost, and now he's found. Fanny Crosby, reading that story, penned these words. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. Now, if the kid didn't run right smack into reality, who knows what would have happened? There is a fundamental commandment, and I need to bring this thing in for a landing. So there's a fundamental lie that says you don't have everything you need. Then there's a fundamental commandment, I think, that helps us kind of begin to reform belief systems, right-sizing who we are and who God is. And the fundamental commandment is one of the big 10. And it's this one, the one that took me the longest to understand because it makes God out to be a bit self-centered, frankly. Exodus 20, verse 3 says what? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Now, anybody else says that, and you're like, dude, really? Don't try to put anything or anyone in the spot that belongs to me. It assumes, this commandment assumes what? It assumes, first of all, that there are other gods that we put in that spot. So does it make God conceited and insecure? Are you kidding me? This is what it is. It's God saying, listen, I've been around the block a few times. I know that there is a hole in you that only I can fill. And I want to tell you right now that you should let me fill it. Because if you try to fill that hole with anything else, you will be disappointed and filled with pain over and over and over again. So don't put anything in the spot that is reserved for me in your life. That's what it is. It's God saying, please, I implore you, don't put anything else in that spot. See, nothing else is strong enough to do that heavy lifting. You can't depend on anything else like you can depend on this one. Yahweh, Father, the great I am, the one who always was and always will be, the great mystery. Now listen, you can't fully understand God, but you can fully depend on God. C.S. Lewis said it like this, and I love this. It would seem, you know, when I was in 10th grade, I began my foray into Christian education, and it seemed every time the subject came up that I was told that my desires were far too strong, if you know what I mean. Desires for what? For anything that I desired. Listen to what C.S. Lewis says. It would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures, fooling around with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered to us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at sea. We are far too easily pleased. See, we've been tricked, duped, ambushed. We've been sold a bill of goods. This is what will make you happy. Does it? Let me just give you this last concept and then I'm done for the day. In this creation account, God says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, let us create man in our own image, and in our likeness we will create him. Image and likeness. These are two of the most important concepts in all of the Scriptures. Tselem and demuth, Hebrew words. Image and likeness. So in His image and in His likeness, the next verse says, God created them, male and female, He created them. What does it mean? It means this. You are, as a human being, and I always balk at when someone says, well, I'm only human. I just go, dude, no, you're acting subhuman. You have no idea what it means to be human. To be human means image and likeness bearers of God. An image is a small statue. A likeness is a like activity. And so what God is saying is, you will have this small statue of me deep in your soul. And your job for the rest of your life is to make your outward activity match what that statue looks like. The real you looks exactly like Yahweh Himself, who has no form. God has always been wanting to pour Himself into humanity. Always. From the very beginning. And when He did it with Jesus, we think, oh my gosh, that was awesome. Wish it could happen again. At the end of the day, God is desiring to do it with you. Let me pour myself. He's not saying, let me pour myself in you. He's saying, I'm already in you. Let me out. Let me out of you. And when we join God in that work, we become fully alive. Listen, I grew up thinking that I was fallen. And the word that was used, depraved. Mr. Everly, you are certainly depraved. And then I began reading the book for myself. And this is what I realized. Yeah, there was a fall. But that's not the beginning of the story. The beginning of the story is beauty and image and likeness. And in my humanity, that's what I'm created in. That's the beginning of the story. Don't start in chapter 3 with the fall. Start in chapter 1 with me being created to be a mirror into the very heart of God, so that when we look at each other, that's what we see. Yeah, I don't mean to piss you off, but I'm telling you that now that Ava Sue, it's perfect. Right now, she is in the image and likeness of God. What's our job as a community? To give her every opportunity to stay there. Not to believe the lies. Not to be shanghaied. Not to be duped. Not to be tricked. To tell the liar to just shut up. And to sit at the feet of Jesus. Can I give you one more story? Sorry. Just again. It's the same story. Mary and Martha. Sorry, but here it comes. Mary is us. Martha is us. What is Martha's fundamental belief system? I am valuable if I do. I am valuable if I produce. I am valuable, in her case, if I cook and make a great lunch. What was Mary's belief system? I just want to sit and be still in front of God. Martha comes out of the kitchen and says, Lord, don't you care? Have you ever prayed that? God, don't you care? Whenever you start to pray that, you can know that there's a brick wall that you're running into at that moment. Don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? And Jesus looks at her and says, right? Martha, Martha. You are worried and upset about many things. What was she worried and upset about? What other people would think of her. What her net worth was. How she would come out looking. Whose egg salad was the best. Who was going to do those dishes. What was going to happen next. I wonder what Jesus was going to teach about today. And what about my brother? Where is he? And man, I didn't have any children yet. Am I ever going to have children? And I mean, it goes on and on and on about many things. Martha has chosen the better part. And I will not take it away from her. Martha was duped into thinking that the rabbi would be impressed. I like the King James. She was cumbered about with much serving. I feel that way some days. And when I do, I know it's because I'm not where I need to be. So, listen. Can I read you one more Lewis quote, and then I'll let you go? More than you've ever imagined. Not less than, more than. And our work is to become ourselves. Our work is to become the version of us that was in God's mind when He first thought of us. C.S. Lewis says it this way. It's a serious thing to live in a society of possible gods and goddesses. To remember that the dullest, most uninteresting person you can talk to may one day be a creature which, if you saw now, you'd be strongly tempted to worship. All day long, we in some degree are helping each other to become one or the other, more beautiful or more ugly. It is the light of these overwhelming possibilities. It is with awe and the circumspection proper to them that we should conduct all of our dealings with one another, all friendship, all loves, all plays, all politics. There are no ordinary people. When Jesus said, "I've come to seek and to save that which was lost," He defines lost, those who believe the lie. And so I'm tired of that. And what I want is an abundant life. So God help us. Help us to hear and see what's real. Just trust reality. Know that our disappointment is because of expectation, and that expectation is often fueled by the lies that we have heard. I pray that you would help us to live like this one, the rabbi, the one who was beautiful and became himself. Pray that you would help us, God, like our prayer for Ava Sue, to become fully the Ava Sue that is in your heart and soul. Help us to live into who we are and to stop settling, Father. And I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day.
1, 2, 3, 4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine. 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, gotta find a